Sister Maria was an old nun who lived in a quiet convent in northern Italy. The convent was far from the city, surrounded by trees and hills, and it always felt peaceful there. The other nuns knew her as a kind and gentle woman. She never raised her voice. She always smiled. She helped in the kitchen, cleaned the chapel, and took care of small tasks with love and care. But nobody really knew her past. To them, she was just a sweet old nun who never asked for attention. Every morning, Sister Maria woke up before sunrise. She prayed silently, helped prepare breakfast, and cleaned the wooden floors of the old church. She moved slowly because of her age, but there was something graceful about her. The younger nuns loved her. She had a calming presence. Whenever someone felt sad or worried, Maria would just sit beside them and hold their hand. She never gave long speeches. She listened. She made others feel safe. But deep inside her heart, Sister Maria carried a secret. A beautiful, painful, hidden secret. She had once been a pianist. Not just any pianist. A brilliant one. When Maria was a young girl, she had magic in her fingers. She could hear music in the rain, in the wind, in the sounds of life around her. At age 5, she started playing the piano in her small town. By age 9, she was performing for local concerts. Her father believed she would become a world-famous artist. He worked hard to buy her an old second-hand piano. She played for hours every day. She didn't need sheet music. She could play by ear. Her heart and hands were perfectly in sync. People came from nearby towns just to hear little Maria play. She brought tears to the eyes of grown men. Her music was soft, pure, and full of emotion. She had dreams, big ones. She wanted to go to Rome, then maybe to Paris, to study music. She wanted to perform on big stages with thousands of people watching. Her father promised to send her to music school as soon as she was old enough, but life had other plans. When Maria was 16, her father suddenly passed away after falling ill. The family was heartbroken. Her mother could not work. Maria had younger siblings to take care of. She had to make a choice: chase her dreams or stay back and help her family. Without any hesitation, she gave up everything. She sold her piano. She worked in a bakery, then cleaned houses, and made sure her siblings got their education. Years passed. Her dreams faded slowly, like the sound of a last note played on a piano. When she turned 23, she joined a convent. She believed maybe this was God's plan for her. Maybe she was meant to serve others, not perform on stages. She tried to forget the piano. She told herself it was a selfish dream. The convent had strict rules. Music was allowed during services, but not for pleasure. There was an old piano in the chapel, but no one played it. Over time, dust settled on its keys. Sister Maria never asked to play it. She accepted the rules. Her life became quiet, simple, and filled with service. But even in silence, the music never left her. At night, when the convent was asleep, she would sometimes close her eyes and imagine playing. Her fingers would move in the air as if touching invisible keys. She would hum soft melodies to herself. No one noticed. No one knew. She kept her past locked away like an old photograph hidden in a drawer. Once in a while, she would hear a bird sing or the rain tap on the window, and suddenly, a melody would form in her mind. She would feel a sharp ache in her chest, not of sadness, but of longing. A deep desire to touch a piano again, just once, to feel the smooth keys under her fingers. But she pushed the feeling away every single time. She told herself she was too old now, that her fingers were stiff, that it was too late. The younger nuns sometimes talked about music. They played hymns on the radio or sang during prayers. One day, a young nun named Sister Angela asked Maria, "Did you ever play music when you were young?" Maria smiled gently and replied, "A long time ago, just a little." Angela nodded and didn't ask further. She had no idea what "just a little" really meant. Decades passed. Sister Maria became older. Her hair turned silver. Her steps became slower. But her mind remained sharp. Her memory of music never faded. In her dreams, she still played. In those dreams, the piano was alive, and she was free. The other nuns never suspected the fire that still burned quietly inside her. They saw her as wise, peaceful, and deeply faithful, but not as someone with a grand past. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a warm spring morning. The convent had invited a group of music students to perform for the elderly nuns. The students came from a local music school, and they brought with them violins, flutes, and a keyboard. Among them was a young music teacher named Alessandro. He was in his early 30s, energetic, and passionate about teaching music. He had volunteered to organize this small concert as part of his community work. The chapel was filled with excitement. Chairs were arranged neatly. The nuns, dressed in their white habits, sat patiently waiting for the performance to begin. Sister Maria was there too, sitting in the last row, as always. She didn't expect anything special. She thought it would be a nice change from the usual routine. But when the first student played a classical piano piece, something stirred inside her. The notes floated through the chapel and entered her heart like old friends knocking at the door. Her eyes began to glisten. Her hands trembled slightly in her lap. Memories came rushing back, her childhood piano, her father's smile, her first recital. As the students played piece after piece, Maria sat perfectly still. She didn't move. She didn't blink. Her heart beat faster, and for a few moments she forgot where she was. She felt like a young girl again, sitting in the front row of her own dream. Alessandro noticed her. He saw the way she listened. Not casually, but completely absorbed. After the performance, he walked over to her. "Excuse me, sister," he said kindly. "Do you play the piano?" Maria looked at him and smiled. "I used to. Long ago." "You have the eyes of a musician," he said. She laughed softly, almost shyly. "I don't know about that," he gently asked. "Would you like to try? Even just for a few minutes?" Before Maria could answer, the Mother Superior stepped in. "Sister, Maria no longer plays," she said politely. "She has been with us many years. Her time for music has passed." Alessandro felt a bit embarrassed. He didn't want to disrespect the convent's rules. So he nodded and backed away. But he couldn't stop thinking about her. There was something in her eyes. Something hidden, like an unopened book. Later that day, after the students left, Maria sat quietly by the chapel window. She looked at the piano. It sat there, unused, almost forgotten. Dust on its lid, silence in its strings. Her heart was heavy. She wanted to touch it. Just once. Just to remember. But she didn't. Instead, she whispered a small prayer and returned to her daily duties. That night in her room, she placed her fingers on the edge of her wooden table and played a silent song in the air. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she didn't wipe them away. She had lived a full life, a life of sacrifice, kindness, and faith. But the music inside her had never truly died. It was there, alive, waiting, dreaming. And though she didn't know it yet, her time was coming. Soon the world would hear what had been silent for far too long. Sister Maria's life, which had felt like a quiet circle of prayer and work for so many years, began to change on a bright spring morning, even though at first she did not notice the change at all. The convent had received a polite letter from Maestro Alessandro Caruso, a young music teacher who worked at the nearby conservatory. In the letter, he explained that his students needed to share their talents with the community and learn humility by serving others. He asked if the sisters would enjoy a short concert of classical and sacred music. Mother Superior liked the idea. The older sisters rarely had visitors, and music was always welcome when it praised God. She wrote back with careful handwriting, inviting the group to come on the first Saturday after Easter. That Saturday arrived with soft sunshine and fresh, lilac scents drifting through the convent garden. The sisters put extra effort into cleaning the small chapel. Wooden pews shone with fresh polish, beeswax candles stood straight, and white lilies decorated the stone steps leading to the altar. Sister Maria, as always, worked quietly but skillfully. She dusted the candlesticks, wiped each carved bench, and arranged the lilies so their petals seemed to open toward heaven. Around 10 o'clock, a small bus stopped outside the old iron gate. Out stepped 9 students from the conservatory, carrying violin cases, flute cases, sheet music folders, and a portable electronic keyboard packed in a black cover. Their teacher, Alessandro, followed them. He was tall and slender, with curly dark hair that refused to stay flat. He greeted the sisters with a warm smile and a respectful bow. The young musicians looked excited and slightly nervous. They had never played in a convent before. Mother Superior welcomed them with formal grace, then led everyone into the chapel. The sisters filled the first 2 rows. Most of them were in their 70s or 80s, their veils trimmed with pale blue. Sister Angela, only 25, sat beside Sister Maria, who chose the end of the 3rd row because she preferred not to block anyone's view. She folded her thin hands and whispered a small prayer, asking God to bless the young performers. The concert began. A boy of 17 played Bach's Air on the G string on violin, the melody floating like silk in the sunlit air. 2 girls played a cheerful flute duet by Telemann. A trio performed a gentle version of Ave Maria. Each time a piece ended, the sisters clapped softly, smiles lighting their faces like candles. But one listener was more than pleased. She was completely transported. Maria's eyes glistened every time a chord resolved into quiet beauty. She sat motionless, but inside her chest a locked door creaked open, and memories poured through. The smell of pine wood in her childhood home, the heavy keys of her father's battered upright piano, the thrill of applause at her first recital. For a moment she forgot her worn hands, her arthritic joints, her 81 years. She felt young, filled with the kind of hope she had not dared to touch for 6 decades. Alessandro, who stood near the front to turn pages for his students, noticed the small elderly nun with the shining eyes. He kept watching her between pieces. The way her fingers twitched slightly on her lap reminded him of old concert pianists who practiced even when sitting away from the instrument. Something about her posture, straight yet relaxed, told him she used to be a performer. He felt a gentle curiosity form in his heart. After the last piece, a brisk Mozart piano sonata on the portable keyboard, Mother Superior thanked the visitors. The students began to pack up, chatting softly about missed notes and proud successes. Alessandro, however, walked toward Sister Maria. His steps were slow and respectful. He sensed the convent was a place where hurry did not belong. "Good morning, sister," he said, bending slightly so he was not towering over her. "I hope the music was not too loud." Sister Maria looked at him with warm brown eyes. "It was beautiful," she replied. Her voice was soft, like a worn velvet ribbon. "Thank you for bringing such joy to us." He hesitated, then asked, "Forgive me for asking, but do you play? I noticed how attentively you listened. Your hands seemed to, how shall I say, remember something." A faint blush colored Maria's wrinkled cheeks. "I played when I was a girl," she said almost in a whisper. "Long ago, life took me elsewhere." Before Alessandro could say more, Mother Superior approached. "Maestro, your students must be thirsty. Please follow Sister Angela to the refectory for refreshments." Her tone was cordial, but her eyes hinted that conversation time was over. Alessandro gave a slight bow. "Of course, Reverend Mother. Thank you." He glanced once more at Sister Maria, saw her gentle smile, and then followed the group. In the refectory they served lemon water, homemade bread, and soft cheese. The students chatted with the younger sisters, laughing about wrong notes and broken strings. Alessandro, however, remained thoughtful. He kept seeing Sister Maria's face in his mind, the face of someone who carried music like a lantern hidden under her cloak. He decided he would speak with Reverend Mother privately before leaving. An hour later, after the plates were cleared, he asked for a short meeting. Mother Superior guided him to her office, a small room with stone walls, a wooden desk, and a single crucifix above the window. Sunlight spilled onto the polished floorboards. "Maestro," she began, "thank you for bringing your students. The sisters enjoyed every piece." "The pleasure was ours," he replied. Watching them play for such an appreciative audience warmed their hearts. They exchanged a few polite remarks about weather and Easter. Then Alessandro leaned forward slightly. "Reverend Mother," he said, choosing his words, "for years I have studied how music can help the elderly, especially those who feel isolated. Simple lessons or even listening sessions improve memory, reduce anxiety, and bring fresh purpose. Would your community allow me to return weekly, perhaps with 1 or 2 students, to offer short music workshops?" Mother Superior's eyebrows lifted. "Workshops? Nothing grand," he assured. "We would teach basic rhythm, breathing for singing, maybe simple hymns. Even drumming with hands on the table can bring joy. I could also play the chapel's piano to demonstrate pieces the sisters love." She folded her hands. "Our rule is silence during most of the day. But," she paused, "perhaps once a week after Vespers might be acceptable. I would need to discuss it with the council." Alessandro nodded. "Of course. Please understand, my only goal is service. Music is prayer expressed through sound." The phrase pleased her. She smiled faintly. "Write me a short proposal, Maestro. I will present it to the council next Monday." They stood. He bowed and thanked her. As he left the office, he met Sister Maria in the corridor. She carried a basket of clean sheets. He stepped closer, kept his voice low. "Forgive me, Sister Maria," he said, "but I wanted to tell you that when you listened today, you inspired me. Music still lives in you." I could see it. Her eyes softened. "I am glad if my listening was of use," she said, half teasing. "You played beautifully." He laughed quietly. "I hardly played. The students did the work." She tilted her head. "A teacher's guidance is hidden music." They shared a gentle smile. Then she excused herself and walked away, her steps slow but steady, sheets folded neatly in her arms. That night the convent returned to its normal rhythm. Bells rang for evening prayer. In the chapel, the sisters' voices rose in plain chant. After Compline, they retreated to their rooms. Silence fell like snow. But Sister Maria did not sleep quickly. She sat by her small window watching moonlight paint silver on the garden walls. Her hands lay in her lap, palms upward, as if cradling invisible notes. She thought of the young teacher's words, "Music still lives in you." She remembered her first music lesson at age 5. Her father had guided her tiny fingers to middle C. She remembered the smell of floor polish in the concert hall when she was 10. She remembered her father's coffin, the cold church, the crying, the weight of responsibility when she sold her piano. All those memories walked beside her like silent sisters in the dark. She whispered a prayer. "Lord, you know the music you placed in me. If it still serves your plan, then guide my hands, even if only in my thoughts." The days that followed were ordinary on the surface. Maria swept the corridors, baked bread with Sister Lucia, and read psalms in the garden. Yet beneath each quiet task lay a hum of expectation. She did not speak of it, but she felt like a seed about to sprout after many winters. The council met. On Monday, they discussed roof repairs, a new novice who wished to join, and finally the proposal for weekly music workshops. Some sisters worried the sessions might disturb silence. Others argued that shared joy was itself a form of worship. Mother Superior listened, then quoted St. Augustine, "He who sings prays twice." The vote passed by a narrow margin. On Tuesday, Mother Superior wrote to Alessandro, "We accept. Please come each Thursday at 4 in the afternoon, beginning next week." She reminded him that simplicity and reverence were required at all times. When Alessandro read the letter, he felt a surge of delight. He purchased a soft felt cover for the chapel piano keys, new sheet music of gentle hymns, and small hand drums made of wood and goat skin for rhythm exercises. He also bought a little metronome shaped like a cathedral tower. He thought the sisters might enjoy its quiet tick-tock. He turned toward the rows. "Sister Maria," he called gently, "would you honor us with one note?" "Only one, if you wish." The chapel went silent. Maria felt every eye on her. Mother Superior watched with interest but said nothing. Maria stood. Her legs trembled. She took a small step, then another, as if walking across a bridge high above water. Alessandro moved the bench back so she would not need to adjust it. He watched her hands, which now shook slightly. She reached the keyboard. At first she only touched the smooth wood above the keys. Then she allowed her right index finger to press middle C. The note rang clear, pure. It echoed in the stone arches overhead. Some sisters gasped. Maria closed her eyes. She pressed D, then E. A tiny scale, nothing more. But within those 3 notes lived 60 years of silence breaking open like dawn. She heard her father's voice, felt the weight of sacrifice, tasted the salt of tears. She opened her eyes again and stepped back. A single tear slid down her cheek. Alessandro bowed. "Thank you." His voice was soft, filled with genuine respect. Maria returned to her seat. The session ended soon after. No one spoke of the moment, but everyone felt its importance. That night Mother Superior came to Maria's cell for a private conversation. She carried a candle. Its flame flickered on the whitewashed walls. "My dear sister," she began, "you played 3 notes today, and the entire chapel felt as if angels passed by. Tell me the truth. Have you played before?" Maria met her superior's eyes, the eyes of the woman who had guided her spiritual life for 40 years. "Yes," she whispered. "I played until I was 16, then stopped. The piano was my first love." Mother Superior sat on the small wooden chair. "It seems God kept that gift safe inside you. Perhaps he now wishes you to unwrap it again." Maria shook her head. "I am too old." "Remember Sarah in the scriptures," the older woman replied. "God does not count years the way we do. If he wants your gift, he will strengthen your hands. Would you pray about it?" Maria nodded, tears filling her eyes. "I will." Over the next few days she prayed not for permission to play, but for understanding. Why now? Why after so long? Was this vanity disguised as service, or was it obedience to an unexpected call? Each time she placed her doubts before God, an answer returned like a gentle melody. "Play for me." When Thursday came again, Maria attended the music workshop with a different heart. Alessandro noticed her calm confidence. He invited her to sit at the piano first. She did. This time she played the same 3 notes, then added F, G, A, and finally returned to G, F, E, D, C. A simple little wave of sound. The sisters sighed in delight. Alessandro smiled brightly. "Sister, would you like to stay after the session for a private moment with the piano? I will remain close by, but no one else will be here." Maria looked toward Mother Superior, who gave a small nod. "Yes," she said. When the session ended and the other sisters left, Alessandro closed the chapel doors. Maria approached the piano slowly, almost reverently. She sat, placed both hands on the keys, and breathed deeply. The chapel was silent except for the faint tick of the metronome on a nearby table, forgotten to be switched off. Tick, tick, tick. She began to play Ave Maria by Schubert, so softly that the opening notes felt like snow settling on pine branches. Alessandro leaned against a pillar, eyes wide. He had expected hesitance, maybe a shaky melody. Instead, what rose from the piano was pure, fluid, and deeply expressive. Every phrase was shaped with natural elegance, as if water itself had turned into sound. Tears filled Alessandro's eyes. He felt privileged, like someone standing on holy ground. When Maria finished, the last chord hung in the air, then vanished into silence. She bowed her head. A tear slipped onto the white key beneath her thumb. She wiped it gently. "Thank you, maestro," she whispered. He approached, spoke with quiet urgency. "Sister, the world needs to hear you. This is not talent, it is grace." She shook her head. "I play for God alone, and God may ask you to share it," he answered softly. "Please consider." Maria closed the lid and stood. Her hands no longer trembled. They felt light, as if the burden of silence had been lifted. She thanked Alessandro again, then left the chapel. She walked through the dark corridor, candlelight, flickering on stone, and felt a strange peace in her chest. Later she wrote in her diary, "Lord, if you open this door, I will step through. But if you close it, I will accept. I ask only that your music, not mine, be heard." The door was beginning to open. She could feel it, yet she had no idea how wide it would swing and how far the music would travel. For now she slept deeply, dreamt of moonlit pianos, and woke the next morning with a song floating in her heart. The way birds greet dawn even before the sky turns gold. In the weeks that followed, Alessandro continued to visit. Each time Sister Maria played a little more, a hymn, a Mozart minuet, a short Chopin prelude. The other sisters listened in growing wonder. Even the sternest among them admitted that hearing her play felt like prayer, wrapped in melody. Alessandro, sensing something extraordinary, brought a small recording device one evening. He asked permission to record just for her, so she could hear herself. She agreed reluctantly. He set the device on the piano, pressed record, and asked her to play anything she wished. Maria closed her eyes and began Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. Her fingers glided, her heart guided. The chapel filled with gentle waves of sound that rose, swirled, and settled upon every stone and wooden beam. The music spoke of sorrow and hope, longing and peace, a lifetime carried on two hands. When she finished, silence felt like part of the piece, not its end. He played back the recording through small speakers. Maria listened, eyes wide. She had not heard herself for 65 years. She wept quietly, a deep, cleansing weep. Alessandro placed the recording device in her hands. "Keep it," he said. "This is between you and God." She pressed the device to her heart. "Thank you." That night she knelt in the chapel long after lights out, the red sanctuary lamp casting soft shadows. She prayed, "If my music can comfort even one soul, let it be done. I am yours." In that prayer she finally surrendered the fear that had kept her silent. She was not seeking applause. She was offering worship through the gift that had been hidden like a seed in winter. Soil, and once a seed decides to sprout, no stone can stop it from reaching for the sun. Thus ended the second part of her story, the part where a visitor brought change. The walls of silence cracked, and a forgotten gift began to breathe again. The Taipei stage was set for the next act, when the secret music would move from hidden corners into bright, unexpected places, touching hearts far beyond the convent walls. Sister Maria never planned to keep a secret, yet a secret grew inside her like a candle, quietly lighting one room after another. It began the evening after she listened to her own recording for the first time in 65 years. Holding the small device in her hand, she felt as if she had just found a photograph of herself as a child, a younger, braver self she had almost forgotten. All night she lay awake, hearing each trembling, tender note again and again in her memory. By dawn she knew something had changed forever. She could not force the music back into silence. It had tasted air. It wanted to breathe. That morning, after lauds and breakfast, she walked to the garden. Dew still clung to the rose leaves, turning them silver in the early light. She found a bench beneath the old olive tree, sat, and closed her eyes. Her fingers moved on her lap, tracing the pattern of arpeggios from a Bach prelude. She did not notice Sister Angela approaching until the young nun's cheerful voice broke the hush. "Good morning, Maria. Did you sleep well?" Maria opened her eyes and smiled. "Yes, child. Very well." Angela sat beside her. "You seem brighter today, like the sun decided to live in your eyes." Maria laughed softly. "Perhaps the good Lord polished them overnight." Angela leaned closer and whispered, "Are you practicing secretly?" "I wouldn't blame you." Maria's smile faded into a thoughtful line. She answered honestly, "I practiced in my mind, and maybe that is secret enough." Angela squeezed her hand, then hurried off to her chores. Maria remained a few moments longer, feeling the warm imprint of the girl's support. It made her brave. Unlike most convents, theirs had a large unused storage room next to the laundry, cluttered with broken chairs, chipped vases, and old hymnals. Years ago, someone had wheeled the chapel's spare piano there when a leg cracked, and no one possessed the skill to repair it. The instrument sat under a dusty cloth, forgotten. Sister Maria discovered it by accident while searching for extra candles one winter. Even then she had only lifted the cloth, whispered a sigh, and walked away. Now, after decades of discipline, another voice inside her urged, "Go back." She finished her duties, peeling potatoes, sweeping hallways, polishing brass doorknobs, then waited for the right moment. Mid-afternoon was ideal. The older sisters napped, the younger ones studied scripture, and the corridors lay still. Carrying a folded linen sheet so she would appear busy if caught, Maria slipped through the side door toward the storage room. The smell inside was familiar: old wood, damp pages, and lavender like the sachets they tucked into clean linen. She closed the door behind her, set the sheet on a trunk, and pulled off the heavy cloth covering the piano. Sunlight filtered through a small high window, revealing brown varnish dull with age. The cracked leg had been crudely braced with 2 pieces of wood and a rope knot. It looked fragile but stable enough. Maria lifted the lid. Dust swirled. She wiped the keys gently with her sleeve. Many were yellowed, some chipped at the edges. Yet when she pressed middle C, the string answered with a voice slightly metallic but alive. She tried E, G. The chords wavered like elderly singers, but they sang. Tears blurred her vision. She sat on an overturned crate, squared her shoulders, and began scales very slowly. Her fingers felt stiff. The knuckles protested. She persevered, telling herself to be patient, telling her hands they were loved. Minutes passed, then nearly an hour. She alternated scales, arpeggios, and simple exercises she remembered from childhood. Each passage smoothed a bit more rust from her joints. The piano, too, loosened, its strings vibrating more freely. She ended by playing the first 8 measures of Chopin's Raindrop Prelude. Softly, so softly that the notes feathered against the dusty walls like birds. When she finished, silence folded around her. She replaced the cover, retrieved her linen sheet, and left, heart racing with equal parts joy and fear. If anyone had overheard, she would surely be summoned by Mother Superior, perhaps scolded for disobedience. But the corridor was empty, the air still. Her secret lived another day. The next afternoon she returned, and the next, forming a quiet rhythm. Each visit she wiped new dust, tuned her muscles, coaxed brighter tones from the piano. She worked, through Clementi sonatinas, then Mozart minuets, then trickier sections of Debussy's Clair de Lune, letting its moonlit ripples bloom in dim afternoon light. The cracked leg held. Once she wedged a stack of hymnals beneath it for extra support. She did not wish her weight or her hope to topple everything. Her progress amazed her. After a week, her hands moved with newfound agility, almost youthful. More surprising was how the music lifted her entire day. Tasks felt lighter. Even aches faded. Sisters who passed her in corridors said she glowed. Angela teased that Maria must be eating secret honey. Maria only smiled and whispered thanksgivings inside her chest. Yet secrets never sleep comfortably. One Thursday, Alessandro arrived for the workshop and noticed subtle changes. Maria's posture straighter, her laughter quicker, the slight scent of dusted wood clinging to her veil. During the session, he invited volunteers to try a simple duet. Maria declined as usual, but her eyes, bright and steady, betrayed deeper confidence. Afterward, he spoke with Sister Angela, who confessed that Maria might be practicing somewhere, in the convent, though she did not know where. Alessandro's mind sparked with curiosity, but he respected boundaries. He merely prayed that whatever was happening would unfold for the best. A few evenings later, just before Compline, a light. Rain fell. Most sisters hurried indoors, but Maria slipped through the storage room door for a quick practice before night prayers. She played Chopin again, the raindrop prelude that matched the weather. She poured her soul into the repeated A-flat notes, hearing in them years of patient longing. She did not hear footsteps on the corridor stone, nor the gentle creak of the door opening. Alessandro, returning from a late meeting with Mother Superior about next month's workshop, noticed faint piano strains and followed them. He stood at the threshold, unseen in the dimness. What he saw held him breathless. The elderly nun, hunched slightly, silver hair haloed by lamplight, playing with such delicate command that each phrase seemed woven from prayer and memory. He did not move until she finished. Then he stepped forward and said softly, "Sister Maria." Her hands froze above the keys. She turned, expression caught between fear and surrender. He lifted both palms in apology. "Forgive me. I heard the music and—" She sighed, lowered her gaze. "You found my secret." "It is the most beautiful secret I have ever heard," he said. "This room should be full of listeners, not dust." She shook her head. "It cannot be. The rules—" He knelt beside the cracked leg, examining the makeshift brace. "First, this piano is dangerous. One day that leg will give. Let me repair it properly. That is kind but unnecessary. I only play a little." He looked at her, eyes shining. "Sister, you play like the river sings, soft but unstoppable. You play as if the keys grew from your fingers." Her cheeks pinked. "You exaggerate." "No. I spent 10 years studying at the conservatory, judging competitions, listening to prodigies, and today I have witnessed something rarer. Humility married to genius." She brushed dust from her skirt. "It is neither genius nor humility. It is simply gratitude. For every day God still lets my hands move." He nodded, understanding deeper than words could say. "May I help you, at least by tuning the instrument and fixing the leg? It pains me to see your gift threatened by broken wood." She hesitated, then agreed. They shook hands, his strong and warm, hers thin but steady. He promised to return Saturday with tools and a friend who specialized in piano restoration. That night Maria confessed everything to Mother Superior. She braced for reprimand, but the older woman listened quietly. After Maria finished, tears wetting her own cheeks, Mother Superior sighed. "My dear, I wondered why your smile had grown so bright. I cannot punish joy. Still, we must keep order. You may practice here with Maestro's oversight, but only during hours that do not disturb vows of silence. Do you accept this boundary?" Maria nodded, tears falling faster. "Yes, Reverend Mother. Thank you." The following Saturday, Alessandro arrived with his friend, Maestro Luigi Bianchi, a retired piano technician famous in nearby cities. They brought wooden braces, clamps, new strings, felt hammers, and fine sandpaper. They spent 6 hours repairing the cracked leg, tightening screws, leveling keys, oiling the pedal hinges. Maria watched like an anxious mother. When they finished, Luigi closed the lid and announced, "She will sing truer than before. Treat her kindly." They left her alone with the restored instrument. She opened the lid, placed her fingers on middle C and gasped. The tone rang clear as if the piano had taken a deep breath after years underwater. She played scales. Every note answered bright and balanced. She played Mozart. The lively passages danced. She played Chopin. The soft chords glowed like embers. Tears kept falling, and she let them. They washed doubt from her heart. From that day she practiced openly, though still quietly, in the storage room for 2 hours each afternoon. Mother Superior allowed Sister Angela to bring tea and sit listening. Sometimes other nuns passed by, drawn by the music, and lingered in the doorway, hands clasped, eyes moist. The storage room became a sanctuary within a sanctuary. Alessandro visited every weekend to tune the piano and mentor Maria on difficult passages she requested. He marveled at her progress. Pieces she struggled with one week she mastered the next. Her interpretation had depth scholars chased for years. She seemed to pull meaning from silence between notes. Often he closed his eyes while she played, and felt as though he were floating in a river of light. One afternoon he arrived with sheet music by Liszt, Consolation No. 3. He placed it before her. "I think your hands are ready," he said. She laughed at the idea but accepted the challenge. The following week she played it flawlessly, the melody tender as whispered comfort. Word began to spread quietly among the nuns. Sister Maria had a gift. One evening at supper, Sister Lucia asked whether Maria might perform a small piece during Sunday Vespers. Mother Superior paused, spoon halfway to her mouth. She looked around the table, reading hearts. Every face showed hope. She set the spoon down. "Prayer must guide us," she said. "If we invite her gift into our service, it must serve God, not vanity." She asked Maria's opinion. Maria's voice trembled. "If it pleases God and my sisters, I will play." That decision set new ripples in motion. Sunday came. After the gospel reading and silent meditation, Mother Superior nodded to Maria. The storage room piano, though improved, could not be moved easily, so Alessandro had borrowed a compact digital piano from the conservatory and placed it near the altar, disguised under a cream cloth. Sister Maria stepped forward, hands folded, eyes lowered. She sat and removed the cloth. Murmurs fell silent. She closed her eyes, whispered a plea, "All for you," then began Schubert's Serenade, chosen for its gentle reverence. The congregation of sisters and a few local villagers held their breath. The first notes floated like doves through stained glass light. As the melody unfolded, those listening felt time slow to a hush. Old pains softened, worries loosened. Some sobbed quietly. Maria's hands moved with tenderness, each phrase caressed like a prayer bead. When the final chord faded, she lifted, her fingers as if releasing a fragile bird into the sky. Silence reigned, thick with wonder. Then the sisters bowed their heads, not clapping, respecting the sacred, yet their tears and radiant faces applauded more deeply than any sound. Maria rose, nodded humbly, and returned to her pew. Her heart pounded, not from fear, but from overflowing peace. She had offered her secret openly, and it had become worship, not spectacle. After the service, Sister Joanna, the infirmary nurse, approached. "When you played, my arthritic pain eased. I forgot it for those minutes. Thank you." Others echoed similar sentiments. Maria listened, grateful yet wary. She reminded them, "All healing comes from God. I am only a wire that carries the current." That night in her diary she wrote, "A wire cannot boast of the light it carries, yet it feels warm as light passes through." Several days later, Alessandro visited with unexpected news. The conservatory planned an end-of-term recital showcasing teachers and exceptional students. He served as program director and wanted Maria to perform one piece, something gentle, no more than 5 minutes. He promised transport, rehearsal time, and complete respect for her wishes. She blanched. Perform outside the convent, before strangers? At her age? It seemed impossible. She prayed, sought counsel from Mother Superior, and fasted for clarity. Revered voices inside and outside urged caution. Fame tempts. Yet other voices, Scripture, the whisper of her own gift, said, "Hide not your lamp under a bushel." At last she agreed under conditions. She would wear her habit, use no stage lighting, receive no payment, and dedicate the piece to those who have waited too long. Rehearsals followed. Alessandro booked the conservatory's small hall for private practice sessions. He accompanied Maria in his car, an old blue Fiat, whose radio played only static. They laughed about it, calling the static heaven's applause. Each trip she clutched her rosary, eyes fixed on vineyards rolling past, nerves fluttering like sparrows. Inside the hall she faced a glossy black Steinway. The touch was lighter than her storage room piano, the tone rich as velvet. She chose to play Debussy's Arabesque No. 1, a piece evoking flowing water and sunlight on leaves. She practiced phrasing, dynamics, pedal control, building confidence. Alessandro recorded rehearsals so she could listen back at the convent. She spent nights marking fingerings on photocopies, murmuring passages in her cell until dawn. The recital approached. Posters appeared around town, listing performers: a violin prodigy aged 14, a vocal trio, a jazz pianist, and simply Sister Maria piano. Students whispered, intrigued. Some mocked the idea of an 81-year-old nun playing Debussy. Alessandro ignored them. He knew they would eat their words. The day arrived. Maria rode with Alessandro to the conservatory. Inside, she changed nothing of her simple habit. Backstage she prayed while others warmed up. Through the curtain she heard applause for preceding performers. Her heart hammered. She felt small, fragile, ancient. She whispered, "God, I am your instrument. If I break, play through my cracks." A stage assistant called her name. She walked under soft lighting to the piano. The hall quieted. Even the students fell still, curiosity sharpening their gaze. She bowed, sat, and placed thumb on middle C, her anchor. Without prelude she began the opening arabesque, a delicate swirl, left hand pulses steady, right hand weaving ribbons, of sound. Notes shimmered, rising and falling like sunlight on water exactly as she imagined. The hall's acoustics kissed every phrase, sending it through velvet air to the highest balcony. She forgot the audience, forgot age, forgot fear. Only melody existed, a living river. In the second theme she let the bass sing deep and sure, while the treble floated above, light as dandelion fluff. She felt tears on her cheeks. She did not wipe them. They belonged to the music. The final arpeggio cascaded into silence. She lifted her hands 1 inch above the keys and held them there, letting the sound die slowly. Silence lingered long enough to become part of the piece. Then applause erupted, sudden, thunderous, rising. Students shouted, "Brava!" Professors rose to their feet. Maria dipped her head, cheeks wet, eyes shining. Backstage, Alessandro embraced her gently. "You were a miracle," he whispered. She answered, "No. The miracle is that I lived long enough to offer this." Among the audience was a young blogger who filmed her performance on a phone. That night he posted it online with the caption, "81-year-old nun plays Debussy better than you." In hours the clip spread across social media, shared by music forums, news sites, and ordinary people who felt something timeless in her playing. Views climbed to thousands, then hundreds of thousands. Maria, back at the convent, knew nothing of it yet. She returned to her storage room piano the next afternoon, content simply to practice. But Alessandro arrived breathless with a laptop, showed the video, and pointed at the view count. Maria blinked, confused. "Why would so many watch?" she asked. He replied, "Because you remind them what music is for." Within days, journalists called. Television producers offered travel and interviews. Famous musicians sent invitations. Mother Superior fielded requests kindly but firmly. Sister Maria would not tour. She belonged to the convent. Still, they agreed to one interview with a respected Catholic radio station, believing it could inspire listeners without feeding vanity. In that interview, Maria said, "Dreams are seeds planted by God. They may sleep long winters, but when He says grow, they wake." Letters poured in. People who once played violin, who painted, who wrote poems, but abandoned their gifts for duty, fear, or hardship. They thanked her for awakening their courage. She answered many letters by hand, even when arthritis flared. Each response carried the same message. Your gift is a candle. Even a small candle can guide travelers in darkness. Please light it. The convent, once secluded, became a quiet pilgrimage site. Visitors came not for spectacle but for the peace they felt when Maria played afternoon practice. The sisters adjusted schedules to accommodate guests without disturbing monastic life. Maria's music, once hidden, now flowed outward like incense. Yet she never forgot the storage room where the secret began. She kept practicing there daily. One evening she returned to find a bouquet of wildflowers on the piano bench and a note. "To the sister who teaches the world that it is never too late to sing. A grateful pilgrim." She pressed the petals to her heart. Weeks turned to months. Maria prepared new pieces. Mendelssohn's Songs Without Words, a Brahms intermezzo, and an original composition she titled Silent Years, because it told her journey through sound. Alessandro notated it for her. The melody started with sparse, hesitant notes, representing decades of quiet, then bloomed into expansive chords expressing late-found freedom. She premiered Silent Years during a small benefit concert at the town's orphanage. Someone recorded that too. It spread online like warm fire. Soon major newspapers called her the nun of second chances. She disliked the label. She insisted first chances were never lost, only delayed. Still, she accepted the attention when it allowed her to raise funds for orphanages, hospitals, and music scholarships. Every euro collected went to others. After so many ups and downs, life finally started moving in a straight line for a while. It felt like the storm had passed, and there was peace after a long time. I had started believing that maybe things would stay calm now, that the worst was behind me. My heart was still heavy, and the memories still poked like sharp needles, but I had found a way to walk with the pain. Every morning I would wake up, look in the mirror, and tell myself, "You are stronger now." It wasn't always true, but saying it gave me courage. My days had a rhythm. I had started a small job, nothing big, but it kept me busy. It gave me a purpose. I would meet new people every day, and slowly I started to feel like maybe I could still build something with my life. The pain didn't go away, but it wasn't controlling me anymore. I had learned to hide it behind a smile, and with time, that smile started to feel a little more real. One day, something unexpected happened. I met someone. Not in a romantic way, not like in movies, but in a way that shook something inside me. It was a random meeting. I was sitting in a park alone, just watching the trees and thinking about everything that had happened, when an old man sat beside me. He looked simple, wearing a white shalwar kameez, with a kind smile on his face. He didn't say anything at first, just sat quietly. After a while he looked at me and said, "You look like you're carrying a lot on your shoulders." I was surprised. How did he know? I didn't answer, but he continued, "Sometimes we think the world has ended, but it's only the end of one chapter." I smiled politely, not knowing what to say. Then he told me his own story. It was full of pain, betrayal, and loss, but he spoke about it with peace, like he had accepted everything. His eyes didn't hold anger, only understanding. That small conversation touched me deeply. I realized that I wasn't alone in my pain. Everyone had their battles. Some just knew how to fight better, and some had made peace with their scars. That old man never told me his name. He just stood up, blessed me, and walked away. But what he said stayed in my mind for days. I started thinking differently. Maybe my story wasn't over. Maybe it was just starting again. I decided to change a few things in my life. I moved to a different area, started a new job, and began talking to people again. I had pushed everyone away for so long that I had forgotten how it felt to laugh with someone. Slowly, I built new friendships. Some people were kind, some were curious, and some just wanted to talk. I didn't share everything with them, but I listened to their stories. And somehow, by listening to them, I started healing myself. One evening, as I was walking back home, I saw a little boy crying on the roadside. He was about 8 years old, dirty clothes, barefoot, and scared. I asked him what happened, and he told me he had lost his mother in the market. I took his hand and helped him search. It took us more than 2 hours, but finally, we found his mother. She cried and hugged him, and then turned to me and thanked me with tears in her eyes. That moment touched my heart deeply. I realized something. Helping others gave me a strange kind of peace. A light inside me that had almost gone out started glowing again, so I made it a habit. Whenever I had free time, I would go to the orphanage, the shelter, or just sit with lonely people in the park. I didn't have money to give, but I had time. I had a heart that understood pain, and that was enough. Day by day, I started feeling alive again. Not fully healed, but definitely better than before. Then, out of nowhere, I got a call that changed everything again. It was from someone I hadn't heard from in years, someone from my past who had once been very close to me. They were in trouble. At first, I didn't want to get involved. That part of my life was over, but something inside me wouldn't let me ignore it. So I agreed to meet them. Seeing their face brought back so many memories, both good and bad. They looked tired, lost, broken. Life had been cruel to them too. They said they needed help, not money, just someone to talk to, someone to remind them who they used to be. I was shocked. This was the same person who once left me alone in my hardest time, and now they were asking for help. I didn't know how to react. My heart wanted to help, but my mind warned me to stay away. I spent the whole night thinking. And finally, I chose forgiveness. Not for them, but for myself. I didn't want to carry that anger anymore. So I helped them. Slowly, I watched them change. They were not perfect, but they were trying. And in helping them, I healed a small part of myself, too. I understood now that sometimes pain teaches us the biggest lessons. It shows us who we are, and it shows us who we don't want to become. With time, I started dreaming again. Small dreams at first, a better job, maybe a small home of my own. I started saving money, learning new skills. I watched online videos, took free courses, practiced late at night when the world was sleeping. I didn't tell anyone. I wanted to surprise everyone, but most of all, I wanted to surprise myself. I wanted to see if I could still do something big with my life. And then came the biggest moment of that year. I got selected for a new job in another city. A big opportunity. It wasn't just a job, it was a chance to restart life from zero. I was scared. Leaving everything behind again felt risky. But I knew deep inside that this was the moment I had been waiting for. So I packed my small bag, hugged the few friends I had made, and left. The new city was loud, fast, and strange, but it was also full of hope. I worked hard every day, stayed quiet, learned quickly. People noticed me. They started trusting me, and for the first time in years, I was proud of myself. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was building something, a life I could finally call mine. Of course, the past never fully leaves. Some nights, I would wake up with old memories, faces I missed, mistakes I regretted, words I couldn't forget. But those memories didn't control me anymore. I had learned to live with them. They were like shadows, always there, but not stopping my light. One day I stood on the rooftop of my small apartment looking at the sunset. The sky was orange, the wind was soft, and my heart was calm. I smiled to myself and whispered, "You made it." Not to impress anyone, not to prove anything, but just to thank myself for not giving up. That moment felt like a full circle. From a broken soul sitting alone in a dark room, I had become someone who believed in life again. There were still many steps to climb, many dreams to chase, but I knew one thing for sure. I was no longer the same person. Life had tested me in every way. It had broken me, crushed me, and pushed me to the edge. But it had also taught me how to stand up again. And that was the most powerful thing. Every scar I carried was a reminder, not of pain, but of survival. Every tear I had cried was proof that I had felt deeply. And every smile I gave now was a small victory. I wasn't perfect, but I was real. I was human. And that was enough. The hall was filled with people. Some were quietly whispering to each other, while others waited silently, looking toward the stage with curious eyes. Most of them didn't know what to expect. Some were excited, others confused. The story had already started spreading, about an old nun who was going to perform. People were thinking, "Why her? Can she even play?" They didn't know her. They had never seen her before. But something in the air felt different, like something unusual was about to happen. Behind the stage, in a small room, Sister Agnes sat alone. Her hands were resting in her lap, gently shaking. She wasn't scared of the crowd. She had faced tougher things in life. What shook her heart was the moment itself. After all these years, after decades of silence, of rejection, of being told that she was too old or not needed, she was finally getting a chance, a real chance. Not in front of nuns, not in a quiet chapel, but on a stage, in front of strangers, who came to hear music, not prayers. She closed her eyes and remembered the day she had first touched a piano. She was just a little girl living in an orphanage. The piano was old, some of its keys didn't even work. But when she played it, it felt like the world disappeared. Her fingers danced on the keys, and her heart felt free. It was the only time, in her young life, that she didn't feel unwanted. That piano had given her love when no one else did. Over the years, that love for music stayed in her heart. Even when she joined the convent, even when she was told that nuns had other responsibilities, she still played in secret, late at night, when the others were asleep. The piano had become her secret friend, the only one who truly understood her. But as she got older, her chances to play grew smaller. Her fingers became stiff, her back hurt. Her time was taken up by church duties, by kitchen work, by silence. And one day, the head of the convent said it clearly. "Sister Agnes, the younger ones will handle the music now." That night, she had cried alone in the chapel. Not because someone was cruel to her, but because something inside her had died. She had locked her music inside her heart and promised never to ask again. But life had other plans. A young volunteer named Clara had come to the convent. Clara was energetic, kind, and always curious. One day, she heard soft music coming from the chapel. She peeked in and saw Sister Agnes playing the piano alone. Her hands were slow, but the music was full of emotion. Clara didn't interrupt. Her. She just sat in the last pew and listened. After the song ended, she clapped gently. Sister Agnes looked up, shocked and shy. I didn't know you could play like that, Clara said. Sister Agnes smiled sadly. Not many people do. From that day forward, Clara started visiting the chapel every evening, asking Sister Agnes to play. At first she refused, but slowly she gave in. Clara listened with tears in her eyes sometimes. She felt something deep inside the music, like it was telling a story no one else could hear. One day, Clara recorded her secretly on her phone. She uploaded the video on the internet with a caption, "She's 82. She's a nun. She plays like heaven is listening." The video went viral. Thousands of people watched it. The world was shocked. How could someone so old, someone hidden away in a convent, play with such beauty and emotion? Offers started pouring in. Music schools wanted to interview her. TV channels wanted to talk to her. But Sister Agnes refused everything. I didn't. Play for the world, she said. I played for peace. But one day, an invitation arrived from a famous concert hall. It said, "We do not ask you to perform for fame. We ask you to perform for the heart. One song. One piano. That's all. No interviews. No pressure." Clara showed her the invitation. Sister Agnes held it in her hands for a long time. Her eyes filled with tears. "Do you think I should go?" she asked. Clara nodded. "I think the world needs to hear what you carry inside you." Now here she was, sitting backstage, her heart racing, her fingers cold, but her soul warm. The announcer's voice echoed through the hall. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sister Agnes." The crowd clapped politely. A few people looked confused. An old woman walked slowly onto the stage. She wore a simple black habit. Her steps were small but steady. She bowed gently, then sat on the piano bench. The hall went silent. She looked at the piano. For a few seconds, she didn't move. Then she placed her hands on the keys. And she played. The first note rang like a whisper. Then another. Then a soft melody filled the air like raindrops falling on a quiet night. Her hands, once weak and stiff, moved like waves. The music wasn't fast. It wasn't flashy. But it had something no one expected. Truth. Each note told a story. Of a lonely girl who found love in music. Of a young nun who gave up her dreams for duty. Of silent nights. Of hidden pain. Of strength. Of forgiveness. Of beauty found in broken things. People in the crowd were frozen. Some closed their eyes. Some had tears streaming down their faces. One man in the front row held his wife's hand tightly, as if afraid to let go of the moment. The music touched something raw inside everyone. It didn't shout. It didn't beg for attention. It just spoke gently, like an old friend saying, "I've been here all along." When the last note faded, silence filled the room. Not because they didn't want to clap, but because they were still inside the music. Still floating in the emotion. Then, slowly, the applause began. Soft at first, then louder, then like thunder. People stood up. A standing ovation. Some shouted, "Her name?" Others just cried. But Sister Agnes didn't smile like a celebrity. She looked peaceful, like her soul had finally been heard. She stood up, bowed once, and walked off the stage. Backstage, Clara ran to her and hugged her tightly. "You did it," she whispered. Sister Agnes smiled. "I didn't do it for them. I did it for the little girl who sat at a broken piano all those years ago." After that night, she didn't play on big stages again. She returned to the convent, to her quiet life. But something had changed. The other nuns looked at her differently now, with respect, with love. They asked her to teach the younger sisters music. She agreed, not to create stars, but to teach them what music had taught her, that even in silence, there can be a song, that even in pain, there is beauty. Years passed, the world remembered her as the old nun who stunned the world with her music. But she didn't care about that. She kept teaching, kept praying, and every evening she played a soft melody in the chapel, not for applause, but for peace, for the quiet heart that never stopped believing.